The storm roared to life before her eyes, dark clouds coiling like snakes over the horizon. Maya felt it coming, a deep resonance in every cell, as if the tempest itself was waking within her. She tried to warn them all, anyone who would listen. Aunt Carolyn had been her last hope, but even her estranged relative refused to take the threat seriously. "Honey, you're still grieving," she'd said gently over dinner that evening. "You're seeing things that aren't there." Dr. Lewis, a renowned meteorologist, dismissed Maya's claims outright when she called his office. "We have every storm pattern mapped out," he'd explained patiently. "There's nothing to suggest this will be anything out of the ordinary." Senator Foster had been even more evasive. His secretary informed her curtly that the senator was unable to discuss pending legislation on short notice, and so Maya found herself alone in her room, staring at the darkening sky as the first raindrops began to fall. The storm she could see building now would be far worse than any tornado, a monster of wind and water that would obliterate everything in its path. She glanced around the room, every piece of furniture weighed down with memory, each object imbued with the terror she'd felt before. Maya's throat constricted as her mind flashed back to the night it all began. The sirens wailing above the roar of the tornado tearing through their small town. The stench of smoke and wet earth as they huddled together in the basement. The deafening screech that seemed to tear the very sky apart. A sound that would haunt her forever. She could feel those memories rising up now like bile. Maya's hands trembled violently as she clutched at her phone, scrolling through contacts again, wondering if there was anyone left who might believe her warnings and act before it was too late. The clock on her bedside table read 9:17 p.m., but the storm was already upon them. It was time to decide what she would do next. Wait silently as the hurricane tore through Aunt Carolyn's coastal city, or take matters into her own hands. One thing was certain. Maya could no longer remain silent in the face of impending disaster. The choice before her now was whether to risk everything to save strangers or succumb to the same paralysis that had gripped her small town on that fateful night. She took a deep breath and steeled herself for the path ahead. It would be long and fraught with danger, but Maya knew she could not turn back now, not when lives were at stake. She reached for her phone once more, her finger hovering over Aunt Carolyn's contact. With an unsteady breath, Maya dialed. Maya hesitated as she stared at Aunt Carolyn's name on her phone screen, the image of her storm-battered house in her mind's eye. It had been 5 years since that night when she'd lost everything in the tornado, her family, her home, and most of what was left of her peace of mind. And now, with a monster hurricane bearing down on this new life, Maya felt an unsettling déjà vu creeping over her. "Aunt Carolyn, it's me, Maya," she said into the phone when it finally rang through. Her voice sounded shaky even to her own ears. "I know you're probably busy preparing for the storm, but I need to tell you something important." There was a pause on the line long enough that Maya started to worry Aunt Carolyn had hung up on her. But then she heard her aunt's sharp intake of breath. "What is it? You sound worried," Aunt Carolyn said, her voice laced with concern. "We're all taking necessary precautions here. I've boarded up the windows and got plenty of food stockpiled." "I'm not talking about your house or your preparations," Maya interrupted, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I'm talking about something much bigger, something that could affect everyone in this city, including you." Aunt Carolyn's response was immediate and incredulous. "What are you even saying? This is crazy talk." "I know it sounds far-fetched, but hear me out," Maya pleaded, her voice growing more insistent. "I've been having these premonitions, I guess you'd call them. Ever since the storm in Kansas, I've gotten these flashes of what's to come, the sounds and smells and feelings that tell me a massive disaster is heading our way." "I don't believe this," Aunt Carolyn said firmly. "You're still traumatized from all those tornadoes back home. It's just your imagination playing tricks on you." "That's not fair," Maya snapped, feeling her temper flare up. "I'm not making it up. I've tried to tell Dr. Lewis and Senator Foster about these warnings, but they dismissed me like some crazy teenager." "Dr. Lewis?" Aunt Carolyn repeated in disbelief. "That meteorologist? You went to him with this nonsense?" "I did." Maya said, her voice steady now despite the anger simmering within her. And he laughed it off. Told me I had PTSD from my experiences and needed medication. He didn't want to hear what I was trying to tell him. Well, I'm not going to believe some wild story you cooked up in your head, Aunt Carolyn declared. Mix of concern and annoyance. Maya smiled grimly at the phone. I have my ways. Maya hung up the phone, her mind racing with plans. She had to get the word out and fast. She couldn't save everyone single-handedly, but maybe she could inspire others to act. She turned to Dr. Lewis's weather reports on TV, listening intently as he discussed the latest forecasts. He was still downplaying the storm's severity, claiming it would skirt by without much damage. Maya shook her head in disgust. Did he really think that was possible? She switched off the news and pulled out a map of the coastal area, tracing with her finger where she thought the storm would hit hardest. She'd need to target specific neighborhoods if she wanted anyone to listen. After some deliberation, she decided on 3 major evacuation routes. Then, armed with nothing but a laptop and an internet connection, Maya got to work. She created flyers and graphics warning of the impending disaster, using her own storm footage from the Midwest town that had been destroyed by her prophetic visions. The images were haunting and real. Who wouldn't believe them? Next, she hacked into local social media groups and online forums, sharing her warnings far and wide. She tagged every emergency service and government official she could find, begging them to take action. As the night wore on, Maya's messages began to gain traction. People started discussing evacuation plans in earnest, asking questions about where to go and when. Relief organizations chimed in, offering shelter and support. By 2 a.m., Maya had covered every major neighborhood within striking distance of the storm. She posted one final update, a video of herself standing defiantly before the raging sea. To everyone listening, don't wait until it's too late. If you're in the affected areas, get out now while you still can. Trust me when I say this is no ordinary storm. We are facing destruction on an unprecedented scale, and we need to act together. I know many of you have lost faith in authorities to keep you safe. That's why it's up to us to take control of our own destiny. Share this message, help your neighbors prepare, and let's get through this together. If I'm wrong, nothing will be harmed except my reputation as a crazy storm prophet. But if I'm right, well, all of our lives depend on it. Maya ended the video with a determined nod, her eyes brimming with a fierce conviction that had grown over countless nights spent staring into the void of her own trauma. She uploaded the message to every platform she could think of and collapsed onto the couch, drained but triumphant. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly alive, as if she was using her darkest nightmares to forge something powerful and real. As the storm drew closer, Maya huddled with Aunt Carolyn in their safe room, listening to the wind howl and the rain lash against the windows. She could hardly believe they had made it this far, but deep down she knew this was only the beginning of her fight. The world needed to hear her message loud and clear. Storms like these were not just natural disasters, they were warnings from a world on fire. And Maya would be there, leading the charge against oblivion, no matter what lay ahead. For as long as the winds blew and the waves crashed, she would stand steadfast, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times.